Hi, I'm Miss Cheryl from Mason Public Library. Today's story time is all about Little Red Riding Hood. So that's why I'm dressed in my Red's hoodie. So this is as close as I could get. We're going to be telling the traditional story of Little Red Riding Hood, and I'm going to talk to you a little about retelling and why it is such an important literacy skill for our 3- and 4-year-olds to learn. Here's today's first story, the traditional story of Little Red Riding Hood. It's retold and illustrated by James Marshall, read with permission from Penguin Random House. A long time ago, in a simple cottage beside the deep dark woods, there lived a pretty child called Red Riding Hood. She was kind and considerate, and everybody loved her. One afternoon, Red Riding Hood's mother called to her. "Granny isn't feeling up to snuff today," she said, "so I've baked her favorite custard as a little surprise. Be a good girl and take it to her, will you?" Red Riding Hood was delighted. She loved going to Granny's, even though it meant crossing the deep, dark woods. When the custard had cooled, Red Riding Hood's mother wrapped it up and put it in a basket. "Now, whatever you do," she said, "go straight to Granny's. Do not tarry. Do not speak to any strangers." "Yes, Mama," said Red Riding Hood. Before long, she was in the deepest part of the woods. "Ooh," she said, "this is scary." Suddenly, a large wolf appeared. "Good afternoon, my dear," he said. "Care to stop for a little chat?" "Oh, gracious me," said Red Riding Hood. "Mama said not to speak to any strangers." But the wolf had such charming manners. "And where are you going, sweet thing?" he said. "I'm on my way to visit Granny, who lives in the pretty yellow house on the other side of the woods," said Red Riding Hood. "She's feeling poorly, and I'm taking her a surprise." "You don't say," said the wolf. Just then, he had a delightful idea. No reason why I can't eat them both," he thought. "Allow me to escort you," he said. "You never know what might be lurking about." "Oh, you're too kind," said Little Red Riding Hood. Beyond the forest, they came to a patch of sunflowers. "Why not pick a few?" suggested the wolf. "Grannies love flowers, you know." But while Little Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty bouquet, the clever wolf hurried on ahead to Granny's house. "Who is it?" called out Granny. "It is I, your delicious, darling granddaughter," said the wolf in a high voice. "The door's unlocked," said Granny. "Surprise!" cried the wolf. Granny was furious at having her reading interrupted. "Get out of here, you horrid thing!" she cried. But the wolf gobbled her right up, and he didn't even bother to chew. "Tasty," he said, patting his belly. "So tasty." Then he heard footsteps on the garden path. "Ooh, here comes dessert." And losing no time, he put on Granny's cap and her glasses, and he jumped into bed and pulled up the covers. "Who is it?" he called out in his sweetest Granny voice. "It's I, your little granddaughter," said Red Riding Hood. "The door's unlocked," said the wolf. Red Riding Hood was distressed at seeing her grandmother so changed. "Why, Granny, what big eyes you have!" "The better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. "And Granny, what long arms you have!" "The better to hug you, my dear," said the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have!" "The better to eat you, my dear," said the wolf. And he gobbled her right up. "Oh, I'm so wicked," he said, "so wicked." But really he was enormously pleased with himself, and having enjoyed such a heavy meal, he was soon snoring away. A hunter passing by was alarmed by the frightful racket. "Oh, that doesn't sound like Granny," he said. And so the brave hunter jumped in the window, killed the sleeping wolf and cut him open, and boing! Out jumped Granny and Red Riding Hood. "Oh, we're ever so grateful," said Red Riding Hood. "That wicked wolf won't trouble you again," said the hunter. "Oh, it was so dark in there I couldn't read a word," said Granny. Red Riding Hood promised never ever to speak to another stranger, charming manners or not. And she never did. The end. Story retelling is a great way to foster your little one's imagination. It encourages them to picture the characters in their mind and helps them learn to put information in order. You might start to see this skill build in a child as young as 3 years old. This is a foundational skill for young readers. Now, the importance of telling stories and retelling stories is that it allows children to learn to organize and describe events, and that helps reading comprehension. So retelling stories helps early language learners begin to understand sequence and plot and characterization as they start to build vocabulary and comprehension skills. So what I'm going to do next with our flannel board is we're going to retell Red Riding Hood. Something else that I have for you are some finger puppets that you can print and cut out so that you can retell the story yourself at home. So once upon a time, there was a little girl who always wore a Red Riding Hood. She lived with her mother in a cottage in the forest. One day her mother said, Red, will you please take this bouquet of flowers to your grandmother? She isn't feeling well. We need to give it to her. Now go straight through on the path through the forest, but don't stop to talk to anyone on the way." So Red started walking down the path in the forest, and no matter who she saw, she didn't stop to talk. She kept going down the path, carrying the posies for her grandmother. But hiding behind a tree in the forest was a wolf. A big bad wolf who wanted nothing more than to eat little Red Riding Hood for dinner. The wolf pretended to be nice and came out to talk to her. And he was so nice that when he said, little girl, what are you doing there? Those are lovely flowers." Red Riding Hood couldn't help being friendly and told the wolf, "Oh, these flowers, these are for my poor sick grandmother. I'm on my way to her cottage to take them to her so that she'll feel better. The wolf thought to himself, "Ah, if I follow her, if I could get to the cottage first, I could eat both the grandmother and the girl." And that's just what he did. He told Red Riding Hood to stop and pick some more flowers for her grandmother, and he quickly hurried on to grandmother's house. Here we are at Grandma's house, and Grandma snuggled up sound in bed. She's not feeling well, but she's awake enough that when she hears a knock on the door and a strange voice pretending to be her little granddaughter, "Grandma, it's Little Red Riding Hood. Can I come in?" She knows that it's not Little Red Riding Hood, it's a stranger. So she jumps out of her bed and she goes and she hides in the closet. When the big bad wolf comes into the house anyway, he's surprised to find no one at home. He thought he heard her, but he decides that he can at least hide in the bed and pretend to be Grandma and trick Little Red Riding Hood into getting close enough that he can eat her up. So he climbs in the bed and he puts on Grandma's hat and he puts on Grandma's glasses and he waits. Soon enough, Little Red Riding Hood comes by. "Grandma, I brought you some flowers. I hope you feel better." Oh, Grandma, you look so strange." "Grandma, what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf, pretending to be Grandma. Oh, Grandma, what big eyes you have." "Oh, the better to see you with, my dear." "Oh, Grandma, what big teeth you have." "The better to eat you with, my dear." And the wolf leapt out of bed and was about to eat Little Red Riding Hood up when a nearby woodcutter heard the noise and came in through the window. And he gave that wolf such a scare that the wolf jumped out the window and ran away, never to be seen again. Grandma came out from the closet, and she and Red Riding Hood were so happy to be together again, everyone safe and sound. And Red Riding Hood resolved from then on to never again talk to strangers when her mom told her not to. The end. So check these out. These are the finger puppets that you can print out and play and tell the story yourself. Here's the star, Little Red Riding Hood. And of course we have to have Mom and the wolf and the woodcutter and Grandma. And don't forget, the wolf dressed up as Grandma. So here's what the printout looks like. Print this out at home and make your own characters so you can tell the story. I bet there's someone in your house that maybe needs a bedtime story tonight. Your mom, your dad, Grandpa, Grandma, maybe your teddy bear needs a story. I bet you can find someone to tell Little Red Riding Hood to. I want to show you another one of my storytelling tools. This is Little Red Riding Hood, right? Except there's a trick. Look at this. I can turn my doll over and smooth the skirt down and ta-da! Who's that? Do you know who this is from the story? That's right, it's Grandma. So Little Red Riding Hood and Grandma are all in the same character, except there's another surprise. Are you ready? Don't be scared. Ta-da! It's the wolf dressed up as Grandma. Let's see it again. Change Grandma into the wolf. And then bring out Little Red Riding Hood. So there are all kinds of finger puppets and dolls and tools, especially for retelling. But really, all you need to tell a story is your voice and your smile and maybe a few of your stuffed animals or dolls to help out with telling the story. This is one of my favorite fractured fairy tales. Ninja Red Riding Hood. It's by Corey Rosen Schwartz, illustrated by Dan Santat. I'm reading it to you with permission from Penguin Random House, and I think you'll love it as much as I do. Once upon a ninja-filled time, a wolf couldn't catch any prey. He kept getting licked by the dinner he picked and was growing more ticked by the day. His belly was aching for bacon. "I'm wasting away," he complained. To huff and to puff was no longer enough, so he snuck into school to be trained. He practiced his katas for hours and mastered the whirlwind and wheel. He jackknifed and flipped and at last felt equipped to once again catch a good meal. Drooling with anticipation, he set off in search of some meat. While deep in the wood, he met Red Riding Hood. "I'm bringing my grandma a treat." The wolf licked his chops when he saw her and hastily thought up a plan. "There are blossoms that way. You can pick a bouquet to give to your little old gran." Then the wolf took a shortcut to Grandma's, where he thought he'd find her in bed. But Granny was gone, so he put her robe on and eagerly waited for Red. Soon after, he heard someone knocking. He called out, "My dear, come on in. Oh, don't you look good in your lovely red hood? What a shame you've gotten so thin." Little Red took a look at her granny and said, "What on earth did you do? I could swear that your eyes have completely changed size. Hey, Gran, are you sure that it's you?" "Of course it is me, my sweet darling. The better to see you, my dear." "And your ears are so long. Something really seems wrong." "Oh, my girl, all the better to hear." "And those biceps? My gosh, they look massive. And your triceps and delts are immense." "The better for hugging," her grandma said, shrugging. "Dear Red, that's just plain common sense." "And those teeth? They look so much sharper." "Why, yes, all the better to chew." And he jumped out of bed to gobble up Red, but she'd gone to ninja school too. And she grappled and sideswiped and twisted and escaped from his clutches unscratched. She attempted a lock, but he managed to block. Oh, they appeared to be evenly matched. Just then, they both heard someone chopping. A woodsman? Red thought. But instead, it was Gran in her gi. She'd just come from Tai Chi. "Don't you dare harm a hair on her head." The wolf took a swing at that instant, but Red deftly dodged the attack. She got a good grip and threw him over her hip, and the wolf wound up flat on his back. "I'll skedaddle," the wolf said in anguish as he struggled back up on his feet. "Just a second, you beast. You will not be released until you promise to give up red meat." Though his tummy still rumbled with hunger, the wolf faced his rival and vowed, Ninja Red, you've won. My meat days are done. Oh, Red Chan, said Gran, I'm so proud. Then Wolf and Red bowed politely, and Gran gave him half her peach pie. The wolf was a mess. He'd had way too much stress. I guess I'll give yoga a try. He enrolled at the Downward Dog Center where his tension began to decrease. He studied with yogis, said no to meat hoagies, and felt at last truly at peace. I want to tell you about Miss Humblebee's Academy. Miss Humblebee's Academy is for preschool children and pre-K children. It's an online service that comes free with your library card. And that is great. It's award-winning. It's an online preschool learning program. And it lays the foundation. Its goal is kindergarten readiness. It's got core subject areas, math, art, music, social studies, science, language, and literacy. It even has segments which get the children up and moving and dancing and singing. It's theme-based. It's fully interactive. It has sound cues, and it has plenty of offline lessons. Miss Humblebee's Academy is very aware that screen time should be limited for small children, so it has things for parents to download and print and be able to do outside and away from the screens. So Miss Humblebee's Academy is clean, it's simple, it presents the ideas clearly, it even evaluates if your child is understanding the new concepts, and it'll send you progress reports. That'll help you know how your child is doing and how well they understand new skills. You can access it for free on our website, www.masonpl.org. You want to go to our data and research section, research and learning section. Okay, look under digital services, research and learning. Then you'll want to look for learning and testing and brain health. That's the section that has Miss Humblebee's Academy as well as several others. I hope to be able to add this to our children's section in the future, but for now, go to our digital services area, and there you'll find it as one of the many services that we offer free with your library card. Make sure you have your library card handy, and make sure you start from our website so that you do not hit their paywall. It would be a real shame to have them try to charge you money for a service that you get free with your library card. I hope you enjoy it.